Good evening, brethren. Let me introduce myself. I am M.S. Velu, the ruling master of Millennium Lodge number 327, and I thank you all for joining the webinar today. Before we commence the program in about a minute, we would like to communicate the usual guidelines for all the participants. With these few words, I now proceed to start the meeting and request you to observe a minute of silent prayer. Thank you, brethren. Most worshipful brother Jock Hugoberg, past Grand Master of Grand Lodge of Czech Republic, Right Worshipful brother Durairaj, past OSM and past Regional Grand Master of the Regional Grand Lodge of Southern India, Right Worshipful brother Adi Vakil, OSM and past Regional Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Western India, Right Worshipful brother Bharat Venkatipur, OSM and past Regional Grand Master of Eastern India, Right Worshipful brethren, very worshipful brethren, ruling masters and brethren all. Though today we are bringing to you the second part of the lecture on the secret history of Bombay and the third temple, which will be once again presented by our distinguished speaker, Brother Richard Mehta. Our speaker has once again put in a lot of efforts to give us this presentation, and I request your fullest attention to completely understand and appreciate his work. Brethren, in the first part of his lecture on 18th of November, Brother Richard enlightened us about the Hermetic Kabbalah and its association to Freemasonry. He gave us a brief history of Mumbai and its 18th to 19th century architecture, how the Jews and Parsis were involved in its creation, and the knowledge concealed in the physical design of Mumbai. He also introduced us to the Tree of Life, explaining in detail the placements and meaning of the 10 Sephiroth and why Bombay is considered to be one of the locations the Jews believe was a spiritual third temple of Jerusalem. In today's presentation, we look forward to hearing from him about the 22 interconnecting lines between the 10 Sephiroths, their connections with alphabets in Hebrew and their meaning. I sincerely thank our Right Worshipful brother Bharat Venkatipur for arranging the speaker and also agreeing to do the summing up and moderate the question answer session. I thank each and every one of you and extend a very warm welcome to all the brethren who have gathered here virtually from all over the world. With these few words, I now proceed to invite Right Worshipful brother Bharat Venkatipur to give us an introduction of the speaker for the evening. Over to you, Right Worshipful brother Bharat.
Thank you, Worshipful Master, Worshipful Brother M.S. Velu, for that opening remarks. Brethren, we are privileged today once again to have a very young person, young in terms of Masonic experience, but not young in terms of knowledge. I'm talking about Brother Richard Mehta. He's an initiate of the Sorab Davar Lodge, number 113, under the Grand Lodge of India in the city of Mumbai, earlier known as Bombay. And he was initiated on the 4th of April 2018, which incidentally, I don't know why he chose that date, but that's my birthday. Then it was passed on the 3rd of October the same year, and he was raised on the 5th of December the same year. His keen interest in the history and development of the city of Bombay, specific relevance to its layout and its design, and its obvious connections to Freemasonic, Hermetic, and Kabbalistic thoughts. So without any further ado, I invite Brother Richard Mehta to take the virtual floor as well as the virtual mic. Over to you, Brother Richard.
Thank you so much, Worshipful Brother Bharat. Thank you and good evening, Right Worshipful, very worshipful, and worshipful brethren all. I would like to thank Mr. M.S. Velu of Millennium Lodge number 327 for hosting my lecture and giving me this amazing platform to speak to all of you today and to share the different things I have learned about Freemasonry in my short time, as well as Bombay City. I was about to finish my lecture last time, but I did not complete it with a closing. I will start this lecture with the closing of my last lecture because it seems a bit more apt. Mumbai City is in many names an identity manifesting a unity amongst people of this city, surrounded by ancient history and molded by the hand of God in all its timeless form. A city blown into 7 magical islands that we know of today as Mumbai, a forgotten school of mystical arts, lost in time, lost in silence, in its preparation of resurrection and purpose to prepare the initiate to brave the dark journey of the soul into the light. So that being said, there was a quotation by Master Thich Nhat Hanh, who wrote, "People usually consider walking on water or in thin air a miracle. But I think the real miracle is not to walk either on water or in thin air, but to walk on earth. Every day we are engaged in a miracle which we do not even recognize. Every road leads to shunyata, voidness." So I will start off by saying in our last lecture, we went through the 10 Sephirot, the key buildings and elements that I had chosen that make up the tree of life. But it doesn't end here, and it doesn't even end at the 22, because as the tree of life is an expression of the universe itself, we must understand that this is infinite knowledge going deep into our DNA. The first page, as you can see, is our starting page. On the left, we have the 22 letters. And on the right, obviously, I have written, "There is no higher honor than to live in the service of magic." So with that, may we start the lecture to the first page, please. Above the gates are written, "Through me the way to the infernal city, through me the way to eternal sadness, through me the way to the lost people, justice moved by supreme maker. I was shaped by divine power, by a highest wisdom, and by primal love. Before me, nothing was created. That is not eternal. And eternal I endure. Forsake all hope, all you that enter here." So with that, we will understand the importance.
Richard, your audio is not available.
So now I've spoken of the 10 Sephirots and its location. Now the space between these creates lines, 22 precisely. These 22 interconnecting lines have a meaning and a journey between each Sephirot, as this entire system can be explained in multiple forms, including the Egyptians, as well as the Hindu, the Greek, or the Buddhism, or in Buddhism. We learn that this system is placed upon the same template created, not in scripture, but the purest essence of its desirable magnification. Geometry and the great architect of the universe find itself in being manifested as sound, projected by an arc. In today's world, known as plasma arc, a form in which a speaker can be created and an arc is created where pure sound of its purest form comes from, a direct connection between matter and perfection. So here is a connection between the tree of life and all known and unknown cultures. It's time we established that this connection relates to the 22 essential forces with Bombay and Freemasonry. And the Freemason aspect of this is, since we will not be going too much into the building's architects, the Freemasonic people who built it, they are very much there and involved in this project in every step of the way. As it would take too much time to explain the actual people involved in the project, but I will explain the outline of these 22 lines and any questions they Sean conferred accordingly. So can we have the next page, please? Okay, here you will see different forms of the tree of life, which is very interesting. Okay, coming from 1516. Yeah, this is one of the books you will see. The tree of life is drawn, a Hebrew book. Then we also have Vishnu over here in his 10 avatar forms. We have the 7 places of the tree. This is another form of the tree of life. It's depicted in a different way. And as it can be depicted in many forms, you have below the Egyptian, in the middle the Persian, and on the right is a palm tree. Can we move to the next one, please? Even in modern culture today, as we see in Star Wars and in many other different films and media that is presented to us, this tree of life emanates through it all. As you can see over here in this picture of Yoda, Yoda is exactly in the same position of Malkut, showing that he is a pillar. Sorry, he is not Malkut. He's not touching the floor as you see. So he is Yesod. He's a pillar holding the temple up. And on the side of him are 2 stones. So this can be seen in all types of even modern day media. On the top left, you have the Vatican. That's the cone, the acorn. That also can be described in another form. On the left over here, you have left bottom, you have the anar, which is the pomegranate. Pomegranate has got a lot of symbology in Freemasonry as well, in Zoroastrianism and in multiple other religions. So you see the tree of life has fruit. We haven't got to the fruit yet, and nor have I, but it's something that we will finally reach through this journey of discovery. On the extreme right over here, you will see an extended version of the tree of life, which is in a way what we call Jacob's ladder. So you can see Jacob's ladder, sort of the steps, and if we spin it, it'll become a DNA. So the helix. So can we move to the second image, please? Next slide. Okay. Now here we have the 22 letters, okay, that we will be talking about in today's lecture. On our left over here, the same way we have the Trimurti, we have the 3 mother letters. The 3 mother letters are Shin, Mem, and Alif. Now these are very important key letters that basically bind everything together. Okay? They are fire, water, earth, elemental letters. Then on our right over here, we have the 7 double letters. Double letters meaning what? Meaning that they have multiple meanings and symbolisms behind them. As you can see on the bottom over here, that would be Tav, Resh. Pe means mouth, Resh means the head, Kaf means the hand, the palm of the hand. Dalit is a doorway, Gimel is the journey of the camel, and Beth is the mother, the line of the energy of the mother creation, the vessel which holds life but is not filled yet with life. On the top, we have, as you all know, the 12 single letters, which are essentially going to be your star sign. Can we have the next page, please? You can refer to these at any point in time in the lecture. That's why they are there. As you see, the 7 letters on the left over here have an alchemical property as well. And as we say, if you're dealing with Hermetic Kabbalah, you will understand that there are many great associations to these 7 letters, as in lead, gold, iron, tin, copper, silver, Mercury, the planets, Saturn, Sun, Mars, and of course we have the crown, the solar plexus. These are the body. So this can be interpreted from a microcosmos to a macrocosmos. So it can be you being the tree of life, as the tree of life, or it could be studying an external form of the tree of life. The observer's paradox ends here. So the double slit experiment actually proves that we can be both at the same time. And that could be a purpose of humanity, is to enter into that double split where we understand and are simultaneously. You can see the top over here, the 22 arcana in the tarot cards. They've been perceived from these letters as well. And your star signs on the right. Can we have the next page? These are known as the 22 parts in the 32 parts of wisdom. So there are 22 lines, as you can see in this image on the side, which is very simple. You have the 10 sephiroths we spoke about last time, and you see there are lines that connect them. So these are the lines we will be talking about, and one line to the other, and how they connect, how they've been placed, and the letters that have been actually physically inscribed in the city of Mumbai. Yeah. So it may not be a specific building now, because we're entering another very different concept of the layout. So this layout is, when we get to Vav, you'll understand what I mean with this retrospect. In respect to the actual movement of energy from one Sephiroth to the other, we have the 22 most essential frequencies of creation, and express the process of creating as it manifests. So what we're talking about here is the manifestation of that energy forms and then passes down this line and moves to another form of manifestation. And we'll be talking about that. Can we have the next link, please? Here is a very detailed scripture of the different types of Aramaic I have been dealing with. So as you can see, it's not one type, because we have old, we have new, we have block forms of Aramaic, we have book forms of Aramaic. So this is a basic guideline in case anybody wants to refer to it. Everything is over here to check up afterwards. Next link, please. Okay, here we have the 22 22 lines, the 22 alphabets of the letter, the 22 essential components that make up the tree of life. In the center, we have a lovely rendition of God blowing into the container, the glass, as we spoke about. It was my first lecture, the opening, as he blows into the glass and he manifests the universe. It's a beautiful imagery. And if you see, the container also is in the shape of a person. You see a head, you can see two arms coming out on the sides, and the stomach. So this could be a form of Adam being created. So man, or whatever form you want to see it based on the religious aspect. Again, you can see all the different types of letters on your right. This is how it will be broken up. So anytime, again, referral, you can come back to these points, and all the details are written down below. Even each line that I represent over here, I will have a small image with it to help guide you as to which part of the Sephiroth that is being talked about at that moment, because it can get very confusing when we deal with 22 of them. Can we have the next page, please? My leaf. Now, as you see in the top right corner over here, you will see there's a red line on the right, connecting to the second blue dot on the right side. Yeah. So that is the first line we're talking about. A leaf is, in a sense, the ox. Let's get to that page. The first line, depicted as the white. See, now there's a white line over here. I don't know why it's there, because actually manifestation from Keta to Hokmah is untangible. It's unseeable. It's unknown. You can't quantify it. You can't describe it. It's pure energy. But there's a line over there, and it's a white line. I have no idea why it's there, though it does depict the energy of a single ray of light. Understand? So it's not supposed to be there. But it's defining it in the first go. And there's a connection to that building at the bottom, the office of collectors. That's where the line would connect to. Okay. So if we look at Alif, Alif is the first letter of the alphabet. And it has a, what do we call it? An energy that transfuses into the first moment that creation occurs. So what is this building? This building was a connectivity of many people coming together. Not one person built this building, the office of the collector, which we spoke about. And that is the energy that comes down. So this ray of light was coming from, say, Garcia de Horta, which is the castle at the top, Bombay House. And this energy is unknown energy, and it comes now to Alif. Can we have the next link? Okay. Primal power. It is perfect stillness and represents actionless and motionless. So it's just pure perfection beyond human comprehension. That's why I said there should be nothing there, because we can't understand pure perfection. Understand? So I guess just drawing a white line. I do believe that even till date, the locations that have been kept are kept active, and these places have been highlighted for specific reasons in certain areas. So there's definitely a continuity of the mind playing through this tree of life in our modern day people who control and run these places in some form or the other, whether they know it or they don't. The location between these two, as we spoke about, yeah, I've spoken about all this stuff, and the ox sending down pure energy. So this is the energy that starts. This is our first primal energy, actionless, motionless, a sense of possibility. Okay, and this is where the gold used to come to the head office over there, and everybody could put the gold in, and then it was re-regulated afterwards. So unregulated gold, unregulated customs, everything was coming through this part. So can we move on to the next one? Next link. With the history of Alif. Alif, as you can see here, the ox, yeah, and also the upper yod. The way it's designed, the way it's written too. So again, you can understand the essential layout of what it means and why we say the ox. See the ox horns? That is one of the main reasons why we call it the ox. Yeah, we can go to the next one. Okay, Beth. Beth is this building, as you can see over here. This is the Bank of India building over here. On your left, you can see a nice copy of it. And you can see on the top of it, there's something cut out over here. And it looks like a C. And I've highlighted it on the right over here. So that is basically the symbol for Beth. And it's right in the position it's meant to be on the line. Now I have not constructed these places from my imagination. They have been geometrically chosen for being in the position that they are and representing the alphabet that they need to represent at that point. Next image. Okay, Beth is the first action in creation, the start of duality, the house of vessels. So basically it's the container, but nothing is contained in this. So it's the womb, the mother of creation, a representation of the soul in a way that's coming down and now being given that opportunity to take the shape of a vessel. And as you can see, the building also, this is not the building. This is a Beth means house. Okay. So the first concept is it's a house. But in the position and location that we are looking at, Beth comes to Bina. Bina is the mother. So this is the journey to the mother and the filling of the container. Okay. So in the essence, it is the quarry which is carved out by the light of wisdom. It is the womb which gives shape to the spirit of God. On the psychological level, Bina is processed wisdom as known as deductive reasoning. Okay, so it's a very important area, and you can read understand that the connection is very connected to these two, and we are going to be creating the triangle now. Yeah, so the bottom line does not come in yet because I have replaced the alphabets for us to understand the way it's going to be explained in the next part. Okay, can we move on to the next one for a second? Yes. Understanding the idea. While Hokmah is intellect that does not emanate from the rational process, it is neither inspired or taught. Vina is the rational process that is innate in the person, which works to develop a full idea. It represents the concealment of God, which hides the face of mercy. So that's what Beth is. It's essentially the first line. I know we saw Alif as the first line, but Alif isn't actually the first line because all essence comes from Beth, but moves in this form through the gateways. So what happens is when you join Dalit, when you create this triangle, so you have here's Hokmah, here you all have is Beth, Alif, Beth, this is Keta, and on your right here, they join together to create this. This is Dalit. Dalit creates the first. Yeah, so now the lines become dimensional and reality starts to manifest itself as we move down deeper into this story. Yeah, 3 verbs at 1. We can move to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, Gimel. Gimel is beautiful. It's the camel. Okay, as you can see, the image over here is the location of Gimel. Gimel moves up from that line as we see over there, where it starts over here is St. Thomas's Church, and it goes up, and then you have a hook. So essentially, Gimel is the hook. As you can see, the cursive version over here is the hook. Yeah, we have to take it from an older version because they've used one of the three different versions. Also, Gimel is a version of the camel. So if we go to the next slide, please, the camel essentially will explain to us the idea of the hump and the water and everything coming into its unity. And it's also the abyss because it's this journey and this crossing over from Dalit into the next line because this crosses Gimel and this is the cross, the first cross that occurs. Yeah. So you have Gimel moving upwards. Yeah. And then you have Dalit crossing it over there. And then you have Ketar at the top of it. That cross that we see over here, that's the abyss. Yeah. It's also can be understood as the journey of the long journey through the life, or the journey of the dark journey of the night, essentially. That is the essence of it, right? There's some background music sound in the background. That's somebody's mic may be on. Also, understanding the dark understood as the dark night of the soul. Yes, exactly. Sorry, it was right there. I just missed it. The building roof, shape of a circle with a small circle inside the center of it. It's seen from above. The representation is the sun and life form, where the sun move from this upwards. Okay. So if we look over here also, we see Gimel and we have different versions of it with the camel. See the camel shape over there? So it's a form of the camel moving forward. It's a journey, our journey through life. Yeah. In the Talmud, it said that Gimel symbolizes a rich man running after a poor man. It gives him zadhak, which is charity. In Hebrew, meaning impoverished. Gimel thus represents the free choice to run after the teacher. Yeah. It's a very interesting outlook, yeah. Because the Torah, by practicing these acts, we create a bond, and we have to be sort of humility towards our teacher is very important when we're learning, because each teacher teaches us something new, and sometimes different teachers are very needed. I mean, there's not one person does not know everything, so multiple gurus and teachers and mentors. And this is that journey essentially. And we keep moving through Dat, as I said, this is the cycle until we get past Dat, which is the center, and we end up going to Keter. And so let's go to the next one now. Okay, we still have Gimel. And Gimel has a lot of importance to it as well. The part of Gimel adds up to 16. Yeah, the same value for the verb that's to be indicated that our giving affects the nature of our existence in the realm of spirit. So it's a journey of giving, of losing, of basically relinquishing all your worldly, material, psychological load and moving through this journey knowing that there's no one there to back you up. It was done throughout traditions. I mean, the long journey in Africa, we have young kids who go out and walk their journey, and then they come back and they become adults after that. I mean, that's how they become adults. So this journey is very important. We can move to the next one. According to Sefer, Gimel is formed from Zayin and Yod. Zayin means sword and Yod means hand. Now, when you say Zayin, Zayin is a form of weapon. It's a sword, but it's in its unused form. How you'd say a samurai in meditation. He has all the power of the world, but he does not execute that power because he sits in meditation at that moment. So if you see that Gimel approaches the poor man of Dalit behind the door with an open hand, the sword of Zayin is facing the other direction. The Holy Spirit comes as the emissary of Jesus and knocks on the door of the heart. The sword of judgment, however, is sheathed and then represents the opportunity to repent and let the Spirit of God into our heart. I mean, this is, I mean, as a Mason, if you start off with your first degree or you enter the lodge, there's a lot of meaning behind this, especially in our ritual when we enter and we are pointed towards our heart, So something to think about. The edge of the sword of his judgment. Yes, absolutely. This is an outstretched hand, and the essence of it is the edge of the sword of his judgment. So we're being judged over here. This is judgment, and we're walking the thin line. Even in Zoroastrianism, we talk about the man who's too heavy, too large, or too thin. Either he'll fall off or he'll get blown off. There's a balance. So this is the balance, long journey. Okay, we can move to the next one. I love Dalit. Dalit is one of my favorites. Here is Dante, and as you can see where Dalit is, we talk about the triangle closing now, right? And you can see that you may think that the roof, this is a weird abstract thing for me to pick, that Dalit is built into the roof over here. But if you look, there's a single point here, and there are 2 points there, and this roof is not even actually. It's not made evenly where one side and the other side are the same length and height. If you look at it carefully, it's misshapen. That's where Dalit is hidden inside it. But that is not the only reason this is Dalit. And there are a lot of other reasons behind that. We can move to the next slide and we start getting into some of those reasons as to why Dalit is Dalit. The path of dimension, humility, respectiveness. It is a door or a wall which you can pass through. A gateway before was pure energy. Now we have dimension, which I was speaking about, where the line gets drawn. Now dimension occurs. Now we can create realities and a way to return to the source. This position is placed between Bina and Hokma, which I had already spoken about. The center position, this is Dalit, the door. And why is this the door? Because we walk through this door. And there are different gateways past this that we have to get into. So the gateways to the crown and the final 8 steps to the winding staircase to Kethar. Hence, the sun guides us to the 8th-fold path and doorway. This is the symbolism of Asiatic library. And 8 main pillars, if we see, stand outside, but these are pillars, as in the 8 doorways or the entrances to Kethar, as well as a mirror image of 4 smaller doorways on either side. The stairs are along a 32-step area. So there are 32 steps to get to the top of that area. So tons of symbolism. I mean, honestly, Asiatic library is a topic completely by itself, an entire lecture only on itself. And at the end of this, I pointed out some areas which actually are dedicated subjects. They cannot be clumped in, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. So I'll just stay peripheral over there with them. We'd move to the next one. Okay. So you see over here on the right, you see that there's a Dante. This is one of the descriptions of Dante's Inferno and the 9 levels with which you go down into hell. So the world of religion, which means the door of the cross. So why is it the door of the cross? Because at that point, it's a cross before you enter. It's the top cross. It's the highest Christos. Yeah, at this point, you finally get to Kethar. So as we say, we're starting from up, we're going down, and then we're going to have to go up and take this journey again. So this is a cycle movement of our journey through this. Yeah. So the father Alif set his son Beth, and by means of the Holy Spirit Gimel, who makes appeal to the poor and needy to receive the grace of the Lord. So God of Israel, as Yeshua said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he will with me. So this is from Revelations 3:20. It shows that there's a connection directly with God and moving through this passageway of knowledge. Knowledge is very important over here to understand, because the knowledge that we are being taught and the knowledge in the ancient knowledge of the world are 2 different things, So those who are on the path of that discovery, this is the place for them to go, and they will find many treasures. And let's not forget, Dalit is where Dante's Inferno is kept. So please go to the next page, we'll see. Yeah, on your left over here, you will see that there is a book. That is Dante's Inferno, that's the book. And it was brought here. I don't want to go into too much detail about it. In the early 18th, 19th century, it had come here. It was possibly from a manuscript, was from a dealer in Britain who would obtain this in the 1300s. There was a gentleman called Elphinston, which was the original name of Dat, mind you not, because he had donated that book. And then it got changed after that. to a ornament circle. To ornament circle. Yeah, we can move on to the next one. So Dante is essentially going to guide us through this journey. He guides the initiate through this journey. I mean, everyone's seen Dante's Inferno, and if you haven't, you can always download it or watch the book, or there's a video and an animated, everything's there. You get a good idea of the structure of the story over there. A lot of connectivity with Dante's Inferno. Hey, now, hey by itself, you can see the building's line. Yeah, there's a break and there's a curve. So you see the curve is connected, and there's a break over there. So this is, again, I have chosen this building because it passes through the line and it matches the symbolism of hay. If it doesn't match the symbolism of hay and it's not going through the line, then it doesn't get chosen. And normally these buildings popped up immediately because they're in the right position. There's no way to avoid it. The building is there in some form or the other. It can't be like looked at in some other. You can see at the bottom over here, different forms of hay. Yeah, in the Talmud, it is said that the breath of his mouth refers to the sound of the hay, the outbreathing of the spirit. When God breathed that form into reality, that was where the hay comes from. Okay, we can move on. These buildings have a gentleman, Hermes. We've spoken about a face on all these buildings, which we spoken in the last lecture. Very important key element, because he was the only one who could travel between dimensions. Understand? So we have to go back to that, but I'm not going to go into that area because we've got a lot to cover in this area itself. Hay is essentially a window, a view, a point of view looking without manifesting. So when you look at something, you don't want to create it, you're just looking at it. You have no intent to create anything over there. You just want to see it. And you want to observe and watch the symbol of divinity. Yeah. To observe the paradox. Hay is the double split experiment. It's where we sit and we can see ourselves in multiple dimensions. We don't live those dimensions. We observe those dimensions. So me as Richard is 10 other different people on 10 other different dimensional timelines. And in this place, I can observe myself in those different timelines, because this is the position of hay and what hay's power really holds. The Jewish mystics believe that it represented divine breath, revealing the light. Revelation and light. So light is very important aspect of it because it's our inner light. It's not coming from our leaf. It's our inner light that we see from. It's our soul energy. This is a very important aspect to feel. It corresponds to the physical level, to the 5 fingers, the 5 senses, and the 5 dimensions. On a spiritual level, it corresponds to the 5 letters of the soul: instinct, emotion, mind, a bridge to transcendence, and oneness. I mean, these are all very interconnected with Freemasonry, and in every way, that we can think of. Especially a lot of these connections overlap, so we can just put them all together because there's no need to worry about thinking whether this is not or that is so. This is Aramaic. It's all open. This definition can be held through multiple different religions and perspectives. Can we move on to the next one? Vav. Vav is a very favorite of mine. Yeah, Vav is number 6. Now, this is very interesting, right? Can we look very carefully at Vav, and you'll see it's huge. Yeah. Firstly, it's its own alphabet that can be any size. Understand? And it's the only alphabet that is broken. Something very important about a broken Vav. History to it. I mean, it's a pretty deep going into the Hebrew letters, but there is a solid Vav and a broken Vav. So if we move to the next link, you'll see Vav. Vav is the entire section. You can see all these different buildings over here creates Vav. And as you see over here, the tabernacle over here was essentially, see those pieces on the side of it over there, the hooks and the lines, those are Vavs. That's what Vav means. It holds the tabernacle together, and it can touch 2 letters. This is the letter in the Hebrew alphabet that can touch the letter. And as you see over here in the location, they're touching. See, the top part is Hokmah. It's touching Hokmah over here, and at the bottom, it's touching the Bombay Stock Exchange, which is here. See? right there. And the line is touching. So the whole piece is in one piece, and it's Vav. Now, there are two types of Vav. I mean, let's just go and talk a bit about the tabernacle over here since I kept it there. In the Torah scrolls, it is constructed in the manner of the tabernacle. They call each parchment sheet of a scroll. So consider Vav part of the Torah. So this point now, we understand that this is not just a city. This is a scroll, a physical scroll. This is the Torah. I mean, when it was made, it's the scroll being opened up. So it's quite mind-blowing to think about the ramifications of what we're really talking about over here, and its true essence of why it was created. Now, since the curtains of the tabernacle were fastened to its post by means of a silver hook, Vav, the scribes made each column of the text to begin with the letter Vav, thereby hooking the text to the parchment. Wow. Now you see what I just did there? That place is hooking the text to the parchment being the earth, and the text being the buildings that have been joined together to join the two sephiroths. It's just beautiful. Next, can we move to the next one? Okay, man was created in 6 days. Man works for 6 days, the realm of the Chol and the mundane. There are 6 millennia before the coming of the Messiah. So these are some connected numbers that you can take with the relationship of 6. Yeah, because Vav is very connected to joining, and it joins us with both realms. You know, it's one of the ways it joins us with both the realms. Rabbi Shlomo Yosef Zevin explains that Pinchas covenant was offered without Vav, with or without a Vav. With a Vav, it was a covenant of peace, and without a Vav, it was a covenant of wholeness. Thus, the cracked Vav implies that Vav is both present and absent at the same time. Peace and wholeness. It's beautiful because this explains it. It's in the scriptures. This is in the scriptures. You see on the right side over here? You can zoom in. That's broken Vav. And what does the broken Vav only come to? Shalom. The only time the broken Vav is used is in the word Shalom. It'll come up ahead. It's called a malformed Vav. And if you look in the image of this, there's a break. But if you look at the parameter of it, it's whole. So it's depicting both types, complete and broken. Beautiful interpretation. We can move on to the next one. Okay, up here we have a very interesting connection which comes to the heavens and earth. I'll read it out quickly. It refers to the created order before the sin and fall of Adam. After the fall of Adam, however, the word is spelled differently. In the Hebrew text, while with a missing letter, Vav. Therefore, each time the phrase, these are the generations of, occurs in the scriptures, a malformic way of enumerating the generations of heads of families. So Vav is essentially, in a way, generations. Is the bloodline. So maybe the people who are the bloodline of this used to live there. That was their home. That was their place. They lived in this layout. Very possible. The Perez family. So you can see the Perez family. You can see the tree over here. How they connect with the Tamar and Judah and basically David, and how they go down with King David. Here, Perez, King David, and Mashah. Okay, he would be the one to breach the gates of death on our behalf. Yeah, so where's the gate of death? Is Dalit, the dimensional pathway. Okay. And he would be the one, God, Vav, this area would be the one to breach it. And where does it touch? It's the only letter that touches Dalit. The center. Yeah, the only letter that touches Dalit. You see the circle. That's the form is touching. So that is essentially what we're talking about in the scriptures. Exactly, to a T. Just as the original Vav was lost through the first Adam and his sin, so the Vav is restored to the obedience of the second Adam and the Messiah, Yeshua. So you make your own interpretation over there. Very interesting look at Vav. Let's move on. We have Zion. Zion is the opposite building, same location, And you can see it looks like a slightly slanted T over here. You can actually turn around also, because if you look at it, there's a slanted T version, there's a straight T version, or you can even cut it into a 7. So how you perceive this now, as I said, these are multiple buildings being joined together to create these connecting points. Now we're no longer talking about this building or that's the specific architect. These are clumps of buildings put together. Like Vav is huge. Vav has probably got about 7 to 8 buildings locked into Vav, or 10 buildings locked into Vav. And all these buildings have changed names. As we go down this chart, things will become really abstract and obscure, but we will start to see that there are certain points that just don't change. They're fixed. And those are the lines. You know, it takes a bit of time to look, but they were found accordingly. You can move to the next slide. We can also see that Zion represents Jesus, the Messiah, the true King of the Jews. And since Zion also represents a sword, we see that man, Jesus, equipped with the sword of the Holy Spirit. So this is not a sword to fight with per se. This is a very exceptional sword. It's a sword to create a different world. It's a sword to create a deterrence in a way. It represents sound man. We would expect it to reveal other truths about Jesus as the King of the Jews. Indeed, since Zion's sword represents our protector. See, it's not fighting us, the sword. The sword is here to protect us and to keep us safe. Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And since Zion also represents nourishment and life, Jesus here depicted as the shepherd who feeds his sheep. Yeah, so he feeds his sheep with the sword. So he looks after us. It's a lovely idea. We can move to the next one. The essence of power unused. Yes, this is the essence of it. The essence of power unused. The carpenter or the gardener. So I know Freemasonry is not really carpentry per se, but the man who wishes to work with his hands to make the world, his surroundings, and himself a better place. The gardener definitely associates to Freemasonry in some form, because after we're finished building, we spend our time tending the gardens of God. So the Eden and the garden is a huge representation of the gardener to create new things. Having the material to build now exists. So this is also material. This is where we start the construction of this idea and how everything is going to be put together. This is the material that makes the building blocks, the craftsmen, the ideas, the concepts, everything's being put together over here. Yeah, just as a woman of valor is the crown of the husband, so is Zion, the 7th letter, is the crown of Vav. This is an important line to think about. Yeah, in gematria, the word Zion is 67. I always use gematria because gematria makes a lot of sense. Maybe somebody connects something. And I always connect really weird geometric numbers randomly. While I could be just sitting in a room doing nothing, and just like that, a number will click and it'll all just come to me. And I'll be like, whoa, that's what it was. You know, I didn't realize that. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Zion is a paradoxical word. It means weapon or sword, but derives from a root word that means sustenance or nourishment. So see, it's not really a weapon. It's a way to give ourselves food and eat. So you use a weapon not to hurt somebody, but to maybe get an animal or to cut a fruit or to take down a tree or something like that so you can eat something, or use the wood to build something with it. The word appears like mazon, meaning food. But how is the food of nourishment related to the sword? This is an important part which I don't think we will really get into, but I want to show you something over here. Oversized Zion at the bottom over here. It's a little over. There's certain letters, they have oversized versions of it. In the bottom over here, it's circled in red. Yeah, it was just a bit down to the left. Yeah. Perfect. Also, you can see the number 7 and its relationships all tied up over here. Again, you can just understand that we all know these aspects, but it's good to keep them in the mind so that we know what we're dealing with in case we need to refer to something. Chet, we can move to the next one. Chet is the ladder. Now you can say this is Jacob's ladder. This could be a form of DNA. This could be essentially a doorway, a way to go through another doorway. These are all gates. Every Sephiroth is a gate, and every interconnecting path is a way from one gate to the other gate. Let's not forget that. That is the most important thing that we must keep in mind. Unity consciousness with God, the ability to go above and beyond earthly limitations. So interesting. Earthly limitations, what are these? According to the Jewel mystics, Chet is the letter of life. Since both begin in this letter, true life comes from Chet. It's also the number of grace and the number of wisdom. What is this the pillar of? Pillar of wisdom, pillar of grace, all the left sides. Okay, again, looking at. Since Vav represents people and others, and Zion, which we just spoke about, the sword, represents time, Chet is a picture of spending time in community. Combination. It's where the foundation of community starts to use the magical ability to start creating these ideas that are going to forward mankind, together, unity, oneness, the hive, beehive that we love so much, the bees. We say there are no bees, there are going to be no human beings, there's going to be no life, where is the association? Something, again, to look at. Chet is a doorway, the opening that leads you to another realm. The Chet is the shape of the blood that was applied to the door of Pesach. Holiday ceremonies, again. So when you say that this is the droplet of blood, now this is very important because DNA is stored, right? So this can also be interpreted as the place where the DNA, the life force of God is kept to be reignited, the essence of God to be re-brought back into this world, coming towards him. And he said, God's Lamb, the one who is taking away the sin of the world. So it's his blood, right? The sins of the world being dissolved in the blood is a very important symbology of it. Can we move forward? The doorway of light from heaven. This is something also that we need to look at. The doorway of light from heaven. So this is a light that passes. It's a little door. It's a back door to heaven, sort of, in a way. That teaches us something. God walks through this door. Understand? Like we have people who live in massive, powerful positions. They don't go out the front gate of the White House. They'll have their own separate door. So this is God's personal door to come in and to go out of the area. Now we go to the next one. See, I've written it. 5778. This is the year of the opening of the door. So there we go. So according to them, they believe that this year, which is according to the Masonic calendar, so I think we're at 4,000. No, so I don't want to get into that. It's very complicated. But this is 5778. Okay, this is the year the door will open, and we will be allowed to move through the door. This magnificent city, be in the shape of the holiest of holiest God temples. Huge, magnificent cube. A cube has 12 lines, 6 sides, and 8 points. This is the total value of 26. Numerically, 26 is the value of Yahweh. Is dimensionless. He exists in all dimensions. So as I said, he exists in all dimensions. This is his door. This is personal, where the Messiah will come. The new Messiah will walk through this door. In essence, I mean, I don't know whether he really will or anything, but that's the position and point of Chet and what it means. Okay, let's move on to the tabernacle, which is what I love. I love Tet. Tet is one of my favorite ones. It's a connection to the Bombay Stock Exchange. You see the building on the right over here? That is St. Thomas's Church. St. Thomas's Church is essentially can be considered as also an open vessel where the Ark of the Covenant will be placed. It is what we call the pedestal, the base of where it will be put inside. And it's a container like that. If I show you in the earlier part, I showed you a layout of the way it is laid out. It's in the same form of the tabernacle. Understand? So this has to be understood as the Ouroboros or the Ouroboros is an ancient symbol depicting a serpent or a dragon eating its own tail. Okay, that has a lot of meaning. Now, when we look at the Bombay Stock Exchange over here, that is a pot. We spoke about, and we spoke about the gentleman who designed it. The pot and the building are the snake, the hole and the snake. Understand? So most commonly seen as a basket of empty vessel and snake. Serpent consuming itself is the idea of this. A symbol of wholeness, infinity. Mud. Now this is very important. Mud. Mud is because the Bombay Stock Exchange never existed in a physical form. When it started, I think it was about 25, it was about 12 parties, if I'm not mistaken. Then they were the only people who were trading at that time. So that place was just an open place with one tree. So mud. primordial mud. It's just very symbolic. That was where the mud was kept. And now if you put your hand in the vessel, in the container that we talk about, we can put our hand and we can take out the primordial material and start molding life from this moment. So that's what this building essentially represents. Death is paradoxical letter. It also reveals both good and evil. Bombay Stock Exchange. Stock market can be good for you, can be disastrous for you, good and evil represented at the same time. So just hidden goodness, like that of a woman who is pregnant with a child. However, sometimes the potential of goodness is prevented and impurity as impurity of filth. So this is a duality that has to be looked at. These are double letters. Yeah, they can mean both things at the same time. Death is the least frequently occurring letter in the scriptures. Yod is the most. So the hand of God is obviously the most, and death being this is not, it's a necessity that has been placed there to create balance and equilibrium. So good, bad, everything can happen in death right now. There's no questioning whether this is going to be good or whether this is going to be bad or how it's going to be. Move to the next one. You'll see that there's a type of death. See, this evil and good. Here. Vav and Zayin, the same as the part of death, but the difference appears in Vav and the aspects of the letter that represents man. As seen below, the letter Tet can picture either the man that is in rebellion before Lord or the man that is in surrender to him. So are you the one who's standing vertically or are you the one bending down? This is a beautiful dichotomy.
You are not audible.
Sorry, am I audible now? Do apologize. Okay, so the vessel over here is, as you can see, empty, but it's ready to take everything inside it. You see the image on your right over here? So it's open. And energy takes the form of the vessel. Energy doesn't take the form of just anything. It has to be a vessel. The basket is so important and the serpent is so important. Then we go to the next one. The principle can be seen in the story of Moses and his staff. The staff represents the scepter of Moses, human authority which God asked to be thrown down in obedience to him. When he did so, the carnal staff was transformed to become the spiritual staff of the Lord, even though it is still contained the principle of the serpent within it. Later, Moses used Moses' sins, right? He was used by the staff in the carnal way by striking the rock twice, indicating that he attempted to retake his own autonomy instead of yielding to the will of God. It's explanatory. I really don't have to explain that. Exodus 4:4. So move on from there. Also, the staff, the spiritual staff could have a lot of other meanings in locational perspective, which I've studied about. I could express that later on. You can see this primordial mud is also there on the right. Yeah, okay. We can move to the next one. Yod. Yod is it's the smallest number. Now, I don't know what building this is, okay? And the reason why I chose this is for multiple reasons, is because it is Yod. It's exactly the shape of Yod. It is exactly the placement. And not only that, they say that it is engraved. God has engraved upon the earth certain Hebrew letters. And I will actually get to show you that in this area, this is the top part of 4 engraved Hebrew letters, as entire city blocks. And it actually shows that. Can we move to the next image to show that? So the macro, the microcosmos, these are both very important to look at. This verb is both. It's a representation of both. Yod teaches us both the big and the small at the same time. Associated with the hand and associated with the operator of the world, the divine hand of the creator, using the tool and ethereal tool to create things, the primordial mud. So what happens here is he's basically now taking his hand and he's starting to create the primordial mud. A sign of a master mason. It shows us that the creation can form a singular point. Points out to the heart being the singular point that brings life into creation. So as a master mason, we stand and we want to basically be resurrected. And the whole idea of the third ritual is resurrection, you know. So resurrection is what teaches us our journey through life and how we keep the cycle going of what we're learning. These images at the bottom, you can see a small, there's a dot over here also. That's very important. Just physically looking at it, it has its own meaning. See, means arm or hand, and the numeric value is 10. 10 is also number of God. Yeah, now 10 is a number marking a completion, an order and evidence by the following. Yeah, even though it is small, yod is vital. And since without the kotza of the yod, the entire Torah is to be considered invalid. So if this piece is not there in the Torah, in this scripture, in this line, in this whole document that is real human scripture that they've created out of building, if they don't put this piece, this whole temple is basically void. It cannot exist. I believe this little piece of void is a Udupi restaurant now over there. If I'm not mistaken, my friend who was telling me about this location. And then I remember the location, and I remembered one of my friends owned that Udupi restaurant. So it had a very, I have to still see the building and all, personally. All this has to be physically seen. But it was very intriguing to me to know that that building is actually in use. Since every letter of the Torah is important, no two letters are the same. One can touch, or can be touched or malformed. So we were telling you, letters cannot touch each other or cannot be malformed. If it's a depiction of God, you cannot malform what God's made. Yeah, and that's why is Vav broken. Broken Vav would be a preposterous thing for anyone to say that it would be a broken Vav. That is a key element that shows this whole project has come together from this idea and understanding. That we have a whole Vav and we have a broken Vav in the earlier pictures. This is a great significance to the Torah and the universe. This is in God's great plan that works all things together for the good of those who love Him. Okay, so let's move on. We've got Yod, Kaf. Kaf is over here. You see Kaf. Sages say that this shows we should be restrained in our grievings and mournings, since the righteous man understands that the soul is immortal and therefore the loss of relationship with the other is not permanent. So this teaches us impermanence of death. Now death is not permanent. Death will continue and will be reborn, and it's not something we should fear. Yeah. So let's move on, and you can see over here in the next one, because we have a connection now. What we have done is we have Yod at the top. That is Yod, the top part of it, and the bottom part over here is Kaf, which we are currently dealing with. If you see there's a building on the side, now just imagine that that's a hand, and I'm not joking. I mean, I saw it in my own view while I was looking at it, and I was looking at it and looking at it, and suddenly it looked like a hand. And those two buildings on the right side over here, they are making a sort of a shovel handle, and the top is a spade head. So, I mean, isn't it ironic that you have actually got a physical hand of God, and it means stop. Kaf means stop. So the upstretched hand pointing forward is what the symbology of Kaf means. Whereas you have, see, the primordial, and he has to make now from the primordial mixture. What is he using? He's using Bombay Stock Exchange, the pot, where he will take the clay from the pot and he will start manifesting and shaping humanity from the top, as you see, making man in the form or shape that we wishes man to be. Go to the next one. We will see now what I was talking about earlier, which is lovely, is one of my favorites. Poignantly declares that he has engraved Jerusalem upon the palm of his hand, thus illustrates his abiding concern for Zion. Look at that. Look at those letters on the circle over here. And those circle letters are the same letters that are on the scripture, on the map over here. Isn't that absolutely mind-blowing? I mean, I only found this because I was searching through the scriptures, and I suddenly looked at the whole map and I saw that they were all interconnected, and 4 of these pieces came into one line and created a word. And I was like, whoa, there's a word over there. And then I looked it up and I found this word was exactly the same as the word written over here as the scriptures had placed it. I mean, you can go back and just recheck that and have a look at it, but it's quite mind-blowing. As we move on, relative to the pan of the hand, and may be seen as a cupped hand waiting to be received. or stretched out. Like that looked like a hand stretched out, right? Waiting to be received, stretched out hand. Yeah. And relates to the potential possibility that could be related to matter and all possibilities of creation. And bringing spirit into the material world, the motion of creation. So we've understood this. We have just explained this to you, how the motion of creation occurs, and how we join it all together, and how we create man over here, and how man is now starting to be manifested from this calf, the palm, which is considered location, which is potential of your hand is actualized, right? So we have over here also the reason for considering the reaction of moment, pressing the axis. So it's a manifestation of our daily lives. Everything we do over here is current. The God is creating on the spot over here, real-time creation. Okay, so let's move forward. Cuff, again, the palm. We're going into more detail. I've already explained all this. We've gone to the root of the word, meaning bend or bow. So this suggests that this is the only place where God bends down. This is the Christos moment. This is the moment of Christos. This is where God takes all the sins on himself and moves forward over here. So he's willing to absorb all the wrongdoing through his hand and through the movement and to reshape what has to be reshaped. Okay, so we can move on from that one. Lamed. Lamed is the sphere. This was a bit of a tricky one. As I said, it took me a long time to find it. I could not find this one because this part of the city has been rebuilt many, many times. And what happens is a lot of the names and a lot of the original building structures had been overbuilt. So it causes a lot of issue over there, right? So if you look at it, we'll go to the next one and we'll see what Lamed means. Lamed is basically a staff or a needle, a symbol of learning and the elevation of the soul, and is placed in the center of the 22 paths, teaches us the spiritual learning and at the heart of human experience. See, when we create the world, there's a breaking. We call the breaking of the piercing and penetrating of creation. So there's always a layer around something. Even an atom has a layer around it. Even when a child is born, the developing or the breaking of atoms in the body, right? It stays in a form. How do we pierce that form? How do we get into it? And that piercing level, if you look at it, is the location of the open area where Flora Fountain stands. Okay, and below that is iron. Iron is the eye. And that's not it's the right eye. And there are two eyes in this whole project because the Flora Fountain is the left eye, and that is the right eye. So like that, we have two eyes and they represent two separate aspects of this. Okay, can we move forward? Yeah, so you can see Lamed over here and its form. Spurs us into action. Okay, let's see over here. Original meaning of Lamed: to prick, sting, incite, goad. A shepherd might prod cattle to perform some action. Hence, the ancient picture was that of a staff. So to basically move people forward, to create motion. So this is where now suddenly motion is about to take place. Up to now, nothing has been created. We're talking about an ethereal God creating an ethereal world, and we're talking about his back office and work. This is all his back end office work. We're not talking about anything that's happening right now that's in our area of the platform. Now, as it breaks, this is where we're entering now into human beings, where we come into play, yeah, and where we start to see the reality taking shape and taking form. Yeah, let's move to the next one. Mem. Yeah. Mem again, there are two types of mem. There's an open mem and there's a closed mem. Yes, this is the one. Open mem is good. Okay. Then the disciples came and said to him, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" And he answered them, "To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given." Why would this be said? Who are them, and why is this the case? This is very interesting to think about. This is St. Thomas's from the Thomas the Apostle. is an element of water and can be seen as a life force, the energy or chi. So this is the moving energy. This is the life force of this energy moving down now and becoming manifest, the power of mobility, the womb of creation, and the power of humility. So God is just bowed, right, over here. As he is bowed, now we enter into Mem. And Mem is basically where he allows his humility to be shown, the creation that he creates with humbleness. The words a man speaks are deep waters, a flowing stream, a fountain of wisdom. This is a proverb, and a fountain of wisdom is that with which we see in front of us. A flora fountain is essentially that fountain of wisdom and symbolizes the spring of the Torah. What is the spring of Torah? Flora. Flora fountain is spring. Yeah. And she represents the spring equinox. Just as the waters of an underground spring rise upwards from the unknown source to reveal themselves, so does the spring of wisdom rise up from the mysterious source that God is, that is God. This flowing stream of the inner wisdom can be represented through the gift of man's speech. Because now we're going to be entering Pe. Pe after this will teach us that aspect of it. Let's go to the next one. The opened vav and the open mem and the closed mem. We'll have a picture over here. Do you see that? Now, above mem is a gebera. What is gebera? Gebera is Lakshmi building. Yeah. And so what is mem? The mother of that energy. Yeah. So if we see, she is essentially a manifestation of that energy. Yeah. That the goddess, she creates herself in that motion. So if we go back over here, the closed, see, as mentioned above, mem has two forms, an open form and a closed form. The open form is said to represent the revealed truth of God, whereas the closed form is said to represent the concealed truth of God. This is open or closed? Can we see? Anybody can see? This is an open one. This is revealed truth of God. Yeah, so we can move on. And the revealed truth of God over here, according to an oversized man, according to some of the traditions, the man is enlarged because Solomon is said to have fasted 40 days and 40 nights before writing the Proverbs in order to emulate Moses and to prepare himself for the opening revelation from the Lord. So he had to cleanse his body 40 days and 40 nights. And then he was ready to receive the energy that was to be given to him. And we can move to the next. This is Nun. Nun over here is the fish. I will not go too much, which you can see it's a beautiful building. It's in one single shape. Okay. This is the path of fish moving through life. Yeah, the relationship between the body and the soul, going with the flow and adapting to change. So this is adaptation. Yeah. In Aramaic, the language of the Talmud, the word Nun means fish, a symbol of activity and life. So this is where activity and life slowly start to manifest themselves. The son of Nun, Joshua, according to Exodus 3:3-11, in reference to Joshua, the son of Nun, Joshua, the one who succeeds Moses and was able to enter the promised land, was the son of life. A clear picture of Yeshua, Messiah. We go to the next one. However, on account of the sin of the spies of Israel, was refused entry into the promised land. The story of what follows above under number 10, 35, 36, namely the outbreak of fiery judgment and subsequent exile, was sadly written as history instead. What should have been written is that the Lord, as symbolized by the presence of the ark, enters the land with the redeemed Israelites on account of their faith in his promises. According to these sages, this part of the Torah is yet to be written and will be altered when the Messiah comes. So, interesting stuff. Interesting. Yeah, let's go to Samek. Samek is the letter, in the 15th letter, having numeric value of 60. It looks something like a shield, whereas the classical Hebrew scripture is constructed in a circular shape with a square, with a squared left corner. Okay. Let's move to the next link and you'll see it. If you see that there's a dot also there, so that is also connected to two overlayers. Okay. This can also be considered the finger of God, placing a singular movement. Understand? This is it. Single movement of God with his finger. Okay, I mean, to actually physically think that, God put his finger there and he's going to make a circular movement is mind-blowing for somebody to have created into the architecture of a city, firstly. I mean, it just blew my mind. The essence of support, it is power, but power unused, standing still, but a universal power of spirit supporting as a foundation. To know spirit, one must know ourselves. Unlike Zion, this is now has a function that is standing still and strength. The function is in the key and the strength. The key of this function is strength. That leads to all the processes before it is given form within. Okay, the waters of potential have the strength and support to stay manifested. What are the waters of potential? This is a fountain, by the way, in a circle with water. So the waters of potential, this can be considered the waters of potential. It teaches us circular thinking. What is around us? Orient Building, Bank, BSc, High Courts, Public Work Office, circular thinking. Yeah, absolutely in its most primal essence, right? It also symbolizes the whole soul for the self and yet simulates, both to act for the good of the whole and not solely for the self and yet simulates to know spirit. We must know ourselves. The center pillar that touches earth. So when you see the pillars, right, this is the center pillar, the center one that holds up the whole structure. We already spoke about this, right? What is she actually doing? She is standing in permanence. She's teaching permanence, non-movement, stability, immovability. I mean, it's so beautiful. The whole concept over here is just lovely. Let's move to the next one. And we're here. Let's hear the conclusions of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. In light of the all-encompassing presence of God in the world, represented by the letter Sameh, our primary response should be one of reverent awe and obedience. I want to quickly read this poem out again because it just so deserves to be read, I mean, a glass and concrete jungle. In its mist, always quiet, calmly. With hope-filled faces, she stands, Flora, a dream of spring in her matchless eyes, holding in both hands stone flowers above her. In all corners, iron butterflies, around and lifeless insects play. Iron butterflies, the 4 types, it's used in the stock market, and there's also a manifestation of the bull. The golden calf could have an interpretation to be iron butterflies over here. Again, a dream of spring in her matchless eyes. Eyes. Notice the word they used over here, eyes, not eye. So you have ayin and you have samek. Ayin is the eye, but the spiritual eye. And then you have the material eye. So this is the material eye of virtue. With hope-filled faces. That's the Orient Building. Resh overlooks it, and they have 3 faces on top, and they all stare at her. So there are your hope-filled faces. Plato, Socrates, I think a couple of those guys. We don't know who they are actually, but that is the essence of that area. We move to the next one. Flora Fountain. The Roman goddess of flowers and also seasons of spring, a symbol for nature and flowers, especially Mayflowers. While she was otherwise a relatively minor figure in Roman mythology, being among several fertility goddesses, her association with the spring gave her particular importance in the coming of springtime, and did so in the rose. So she essentially is the observation of spring. They also took 47,000 rupees to build this statue, out of which 20,500 was given by Khurshidji Parekh. On the top over here, it was built in 1869, so it fits our timeline for an 18th century build and was one of the main areas that was built. So it was the key. Governor Bombay, Bartley Fair. The guy who built the Public Works building, he essentially got this gentleman to build this statue. The guy who built it, I can go into the history, but that would be a bit of a deep history over there. It was erected by the Agricultural Society of Western India. And the complete build up incurred a cost of 47,000. Correct. Okay, let's move to the next one. This has a Greek counterpart, chlorosis. Okay, as you can see on this on the right over here. As she talks, her lips breathe spring roses. I was chlorosis. Who am I now? Called Flora. You know, this is very nice. Over here, we have lovely pictures above, and we have a version of the capital. And this is another interpretation we can look at her, the spirit of justice. You know, the way she is interpreted, the way she stands there. There is a lot of symbology to her in a way over here that I've noticed, and it connects to the fortitude of the four people below. See below, you see there are four women sitting. They are her support. So they're sort of the four pillars, yeah, that we talk about in Freemasonry. These are the four women. So I mean, how could you? That is just like, you know, another part of the whole idea. It's a very beautiful idea. Can we move to the next one? Iron. Iron over here is the eye. We've spotted it. That's where iron is. We're talking about the second eye, right? The spiritual eye. This is the spiritual eye. Originally, I thought this may have been Zion because it looked like an arrow. Then later on, I realized that it was not. It was iron. I mean, it's quite foolish because it actually looks like an eye. And I don't know why I misinterpreted that in the beginning. But yeah, slight journey over there with that one. Iron further represents the primeval light. That is the spiritual light of God mentioned in Genesis 1:3. Distinction to celestial light mentioned in Genesis 1:14-18. According to Jewish Midrash, this divine light is far greater than the light that emanates from the sun and the stars. Though concealed in the Torah, the spiritual eye can behold the presence of the radiance, but only by the means of the inner eye, given by what we call rucha, inner sight. Yeah, this is the way we find inner sight. Relates to an eye and the illumination of which is hidden. So this is all hidden, right? So this is the illumination. This teaches us how, if one meditated on this, essentially one would find all these different parts of the Sephirah. That's what it's trying to say. And pay attention to the consciousness that is being created from it. Move to the next one. We have versions of this eye. Eye, and now I was explaining to you there are two parts of the eye. Oh, 1 minute, did I miss a page? Yes. Okay. Understanding obedience, representing primal light. Yeah, we've finished this page. Next one. Yes, lovely. So even in, we were talking about the left eye and the right eye, as you can see over here, the good, the evil, and the good eye. So an evil eye and a good eye. Not that anything is evil or good, honestly, but the manifestation of balance is required in all things. So iron is sometimes described as having two eyes that connect to the common optic nerve. They lead to the brain. The two eyes represent choices of the action of the will, the heart. We can choose whether to use the good eye or the evil eye to perceive things, and we can choose to see the glass as half full rather than half empty. Or as Brother Sumit said, we can just get a smaller glass and fill it up. I found that very interesting as a comment today. Yeah, but that is the essence of the eyes over here and the placements. Now, if we look at here, this is the absolute creation. It's the value of 130 is this 13, very important. We suggested of the ladder. So we see the ladder with these eyes. We can see the ladder, and it brings things into focus. Yeah. When you look at the direction of the eye, we also see the direction of the sphere. The spear that comes down that we spoke about, which way it's pointing. And that's pointing downwards, right? So where is the angle of that? That is essentially correlated to the sphere. That's probably why I got the spear and the eye mixed up, because they have an interconnection of where the line of sight is going to be given. That's why the eye takes that line of sight, and that is the connectivity through it. Now we'll finish with pay. I'll do one more, and then I will stop for today, and we can continue, because I think it would be excessively long. Maybe I've gone over the time. I'm sorry, I do not know how long I've been speaking for. Could you just update me? 6 years, 2, 3. Okay.
About
I'll go on then.
1 hour to 15 minutes we have.
More than an hour.
Okay. Okay, so I'll wrap this last one up and then we'll close for today on this subject and we'll continue with the rest of the lines in another time accordingly. Pay is the mouth, right? The mouth is very important. The path of communication, the power of transmission. Now, if you look at this, right, you see that red line over here? I think you'll have to go ahead one. You have to go ahead one more slide, please. Yeah, see the line, that red line? No, back. Back one. Okay, this line, there are two lines that are connected, one yellow one above and one purple one below. This is the mouth. Yeah. So that's pay. It's actually in the shape of a mouth. This is the mouth, and this two like that. That is the mouth. And in the center line, this line is for a fountain, right in the center. So it is expression of vocalization, speech, and breath in order that the Hebrew alphabet follows the letter ayin, which is at the back, suggests that the priority of the eyes is to understand and to be aware. Because the idea of this is that words are like gold. Yeah. And the essence of what we say, Vakya Brahma, what we say can be manifested. And we have to be careful with the words we use, because if we are slightly more enlightened human beings and we decide to use the wrong words, wrong things can occur. Many Kabbalists claim that the letter Pei is composed of two other letters, Kaf and Yod. Since one of the meaning of Kaf is a container, a spoon, it is suggested the letter Pei is a picture of the divine spark, Yod, of God within the soul, understood as the container for the soul. Look at that. Look at that. It's like a container for the soul, literally. I mean, I love this. This is a what we call a wide shot at the bottom, right? I think this is a what do you call a wide angle shot over here. And you can see it's a container. Literally. Let's look up on the right side over here as well. The whole thing is a container. Yeah, I mean, I perceive this as sort of a keystone as well. But in the essence of the keystone, there is a container, the viewing, the keyhole. So this is the keyhole with which you walk through it. Okay? And the gateway to reality, the mouth is what brings reality into being. This is alluded to these scriptures, especially when God creates the activity of Yahweh. So the letter Pei has both a medial form, a medial form, and a sophit form. The medial form is said to be bent in humility, suggestive of the mouth being closed. And the sophit form, however, is said to be of the mouth open and upright. The midrash is that we must be silent and humble before we straighten ourselves to speak. And if the mouth cannot bring forth praise and the truth of the Torah, it should remain closed. And when you say the truth of the Torah, it's the truth of all religions. I mean, I'm not going to be very specific to one thing, but the truth of humanity's voice being articulated in the form of words, because words have power, words have meaning. And like that, if we go to the next one, words are like gold. Moses began to reach out for the gold when an angel pushed him aside and grabbed the coal instead. Moses then immediately put his hand in his mouth, but that burnt his lips and tongue so badly that he had a permanent speech impediment as a consequence. So this is something that happens to you if you misuse the power, or you try to do something without understanding it. So what he did was he had something. The story is very interesting. Yeah. Moses speaks to the children of Israel. He protested to the Lord that he was kevad peh, heavy of mouth, and kevad lashon, heavy of tongue, and therefore unable to speak on behalf of the Lord. God reminded him that he was the creator of the mouth, who makes him mute or deaf, or seeing or blind. It is not I, the Lord. The Lord was then angry with Moses for his reluctance and decreed that because of your words, you will not be permitted to be a Kohen, a priest, but his brother Aaron would. Now this is a fault that has occurred over here. Because according to the Midrash, as a very young lad, Moses was once seen throwing the Pharaoh's golden crown down to the ground. Upon leaning off this apparent act of insolence, the Pharaoh devised a test to see whether he was actually, doing it deliberately out of hatred, or was just a kid and he was just playing and he just chucked it on the floor. The implications of this action he wanted to know. He therefore commanded that there's a platter with a piece of gold and a gold piece of coal, hot coal, be brought before Moses and ordered the little boy to choose one of them. If Moses chooses the gold, he would have basically killed him there and then. On the other hand, if he chooses the burning coal, what would happen? And that's when as he touched it, he put his hand in his mouth and he burnt his whole mouth and everything. So wonderful explanation over there. And I think words are like gold. We can finish off at this moment and we will leave the rest for the next time whenever that is available. I do hope everyone enjoyed that.
Thank you, Brother Richard, for a long presentation. And I now request Right Worshipful Brother Bharat Venkatipur to give his summing up.
First of all, wow, a double wow and a triple wow. Though it's only the second part, we had, brethren, we had envisaged that Richard's lecture would be too large to have in one part, so we thought we'd do it in two parts. Now, Brother Richard has left us, hanging dry because he has not completed the second part. So now I'm sure we'll have to find a third part somewhere down the road. So looking forward to that. But as far as this particular part is concerned, all I can say is, as somebody who is a frequent visitor to Bombay and having spent a lot of time there, the insight which he has brought into this layout of the city is something quite remarkable. I dare say most of us would never have even imagined it. We have been there, we have seen it, we have done that, but we have not understood. I wish that we had had this knowledge when we were actually in Bombay. Sadly, because of COVID, we are now stuck where we are and we're not able to go to Bombay. But next time we go to Bombay, you can be jolly well sure, at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to drag Richard by his ears and make him take me around the place to see the place, from his point of view. Brother Richard, profuse thanks to you for this marvelous insight. I know it's a bit much for a number of us. I'm sure you'll be sharing the paper with us in due course, which will be, of course, cascaded down to every participant. It's a great amount of information you're packed in. And it's just mind-boggling that the founding fathers of the city of Bombay displayed so much insight, so much thinking, and such far-reaching ideas into the way they built their beloved city. I just pray and hope that, the modern occupants and powers that be in the city, the maximum city, don't go on overbuilding this beautiful pattern. So that is something which needs to be protected. I do hope that Intact and other organizations wake up to this reality. It would be in the order of things, Brother Richard, if you were to, as we discussed privately, to get some, interested, influential people on board to preserve this heritage. So with those few concluding remarks, all I can say is God bless Bombay, God bless Richard. Keep informing us about the beauty and wonder that is Bombay. Brethren, if you have any questions, please put them on the chat box or please raise your hand so that we can identify you and give you an opportunity to join in the conversation.